Chapter 1. The Night That Changed Everything. Welcome, fellow seekers of truth, to a journey that will challenge everything you thought you knew about human history. Tonight, as you settle into comfort and let your mind wander through the mysteries of time, we're going to explore a story so incredible, so controversial, that it might just rewrite the entire history of civilization itself. Imagine for a moment that you're standing outside on a clear evening, looking up at the brightest star in the sky. Not a star at all, but Venus, our mysterious neighbor planet, shining like a beacon in the darkness. What if I told you that this glowing world, now a hellish inferno hot enough to melt lead, once held the key to humanity's greatest secret? This isn't just another space story. This is about us, about where we really came from, and about a truth that some say has been hidden from humanity for generations. Picture this scene. It's 1962, and a Soviet space probe called Mariner 2 is speeding toward Venus. Scientists expect to find a tropical paradise, maybe even primitive life. Instead, they discover something that shocked the scientific world. Surface temperatures of 900 degrees Fahrenheit, crushing atmospheric pressure, and clouds made of sulfuric acid. Venus wasn't a garden world. It was hell itself. But here's where the story gets interesting. Some researchers began asking a different question. What if Venus wasn't always this way? What if, millions of years ago, before Earth even had complex life, Venus was the garden world we expected to find? Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a planetary scientist at NASA, made a startling discovery in 2019. While studying old Venus probe data, she found evidence that Venus might have had oceans for up to 2 billion years. 2 billion years. That's longer than complex life has existed on Earth. Her findings sent shockwaves through the scientific community, and they're still debating her conclusions today. Think about that for a moment. While Earth was still a ball of molten rock, Venus might have been covered in vast blue oceans, with continents, weather systems, and maybe even life. Not just microscopic life, but perhaps something much more complex. Something that had nearly 2 billion years to evolve and grow. Now, before you dismiss this as science fiction, consider this. Civilizations, about desperate escapes from a dying world, and about evidence that might be hiding in plain sight, right here on Earth. As we journey together through this incredible possibility, you might find yourself questioning everything you thought you knew about human origins. Some say this is just wild speculation. Others claim there's evidence that's been suppressed, ignored, or misunderstood by mainstream science. Tonight, you'll hear both sides and decide for yourself. But first, let me ask you something that might keep you thinking long after this story ends. If an advanced civilization knew their world was dying, wouldn't they try to save themselves? Wouldn't they look to the nearest habitable planet, a young blue world we now call Earth? Coming up next, we'll explore the shocking evidence that Venus might have been trying to communicate with us all along, sending us messages through space that we're only now beginning to understand. If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started on this incredible journey. And if you know someone who loves mysteries about our ancient past, share this with them. Trust me, they'll thank you for it. Chapter 2. Messages from a Dead World. The year was 2020, and Dr. Jane Greaves was studying radio signals from Venus using one of the world's most powerful telescopes. What she found would ignite one of the biggest scientific controversies of our time. She detected phosphine gas in Venus's atmosphere. Now, you might think, so what? It's just a gas. But here's the thing. On Earth, phosphine is only produced by living organisms or industrial processes. There's no known natural way for phosphine to exist in Venus's atmosphere. None. The scientific community went into an uproar. Some scientists said the readings were wrong. Others suggested unknown chemical processes. But a small group of researchers began asking a more intriguing question. What if the phosphine wasn't natural at all? What if it was artificial? Think about this. If a dying civilization knew their world was becoming uninhabitable, wouldn't they try to signal for help? Wouldn't they want to leave some kind of message for anyone who other worlds? But here's where it gets really interesting. In 2021, scientists discovered something else in Venus's atmosphere. Organic compounds that shouldn't exist there. Complex molecules that typically only form in living systems. The official explanation? Unknown atmospheric chemistry. The unofficial explanation? Evidence of life clinging to existence in the sky of a dead world. Now, some researchers are taking this idea even further. They're suggesting that these floating organisms might not be natural evolution at all. They might be the engineered descendants of the original Venusian civilization. Biological spacecraft designed to survive in the hellish atmosphere their creators knew was coming. Imagine being part of a civilization that knew their world was dying. You can't stop the planetary transformation, but you're advanced enough to engineer life forms that can survive what's coming. So you create floating cities of living beings, programmed to signal to other worlds, hoping that someday someone will come to rescue the last survivors of your species. This isn't just speculation anymore. In 2022, a team of astrobiologists published a paper suggesting that the unusual chemistry in Venus's atmosphere could be evidence of atmospheric engineering, the deliberate modification of a planet's atmosphere by intelligent life. But what if the signals aren't just random? What if there's a pattern? Dr. Maria Santos, a cryptographer who usually works on secret government communications, spent 2 years analyzing the phosphine readings from Venus. What she found sent chills down her spine. The phosphine appears in pulses, not random fluctuations, but structured patterns that repeat every 243 Earth days, exactly the length of one Venus day. It's as if something is broadcasting a signal timed to Venus's rotation, saying, "We're still here. We're still alive." Even more incredible, Dr. Santos claims she's found mathematical sequences in the data, prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and other patterns that would be unmistakable signs of intelligence to any civilization advanced enough to detect them. The mainstream scientific community has largely ignored Dr. Santos's work, calling it pattern recognition run wild. But privately, several NASA scientists have admitted that her findings are troubling and deserve further investigation. Civilizations on Earth seem to pay special attention to Venus. The Mayans called it the Great Star. The Egyptians built temples aligned with its movements. The Greeks named it after their goddess of love and war. Why did our ancestors seem to know that Venus was special? Coming up, we'll explore the evidence that Venus was once a paradise that puts Earth to shame. A world of vast oceans, gentle rains, and perhaps the first advanced civilization in our solar system. But first, I want you to think about something. If you were the last survivors of a dying world, desperately signaling to a young planet nearby, how long would you keep trying? How long would you wait for an answer? Don't forget to like this video if you're enjoying this journey into the unknown, and leave a comment below. Do you think we're really alone in our solar system? Or could there be others still trying to reach us? Chapter 3. The Garden Planet That Burned. Close your eyes and imagine the most beautiful world you can picture. Crystal blue oceans stretching to distant horizons. Islands covered in lush vegetation. Gentle rains falling on fertile continents. The air thick but breathable, warmed by a sun that never seems too harsh because of the soft clouds overhead. Now imagine that this world existed not in some distant galaxy, but right next door, on Venus, billions of years ago. This isn't just fantasy. Computer models created by NASA's Goddard Institute suggest that Venus could have remained habitable for up to 2.9 billion years. That's 6 times longer than complex life has existed on Earth. To put that in perspective, if Earth's entire history were compressed into a single year, Venus might have been habitable for 6 years. Dr. Michael Way, the climatologist who created these models, made a startling admission during a 2019 conference. He said that Venus might not only have been habitable, but more conducive to life than early Earth. The reason? Venus had a slower rotation, which created more stable weather patterns and fewer extreme storms. Picked bacteria into forms of intelligence we can barely imagine. Dr. Lisa Chen, an evolutionary biologist at Berkeley, has calculated what a billion-year head start might mean for evolution. Her models suggest that life on ancient Venus could have developed complex, multicellular organisms 800 million years before Earth's first simple animals appeared. Even more shocking, her calculations indicate that intelligent life could have emerged on Venus while Earth was still dominated by single-celled organisms. But what kind of intelligence are we talking about? If Venus had gentle, stable conditions for billions of years, evolution there might have taken very different paths than it did on Earth. Instead of developing through constant conflict and survival challenges, Venusian life might have evolved through cooperation and harmony with their environment. Imagine beings that never knew war, famine, or natural disasters. Civilizations that had billions of years to develop art, science, and philosophy without the interruptions that shaped human history. They might have reached levels of advancement that we're still centuries away from achieving. The fossil record on Earth shows us that intelligence tends to emerge when life faces challenges, ice ages, asteroid impacts, climate changes. But what if intelligence could also emerge through abundance and stability? What forms might it take? Some xenobiologists theorize that Venusian intelligence might have been collective rather than individual. Without survival pressures, evolution might have favored cooperation over competition, leading to group minds or hive intelligences that thought and acted as unified beings. Others suggest that with billions of years of peaceful development, Venusian civilization might have become entirely biological, using genetic engineering instead of metal and stone tools. Their cities might have been grown rather than built, their technology living rather than mechanical. But here's the tragic part of the story. This paradise couldn't last forever. Gradually, over millions of years, Venus began to change. The greenhouse effect slowly intensified. The oceans started to evaporate. The gentle clouds became thicker and more toxic. The transformation wasn't sudden. We're developing in opposite directions. As Venus became uninhabitable, Earth was just beginning to support complex life. Any migration would have been a journey from an advanced world to a primitive one. Coming up next, we'll explore the incredible evidence that suggests Venusian civilizations might have built massive cities that could survive the transformation of their world. Floating metropolises that might still exist today, hidden in the acid clouds above Venus. But before we continue, I want you to think about something that gives me chills. What if the reason humans have always been fascinated by Venus isn't just because it's bright in our sky? What if there's something deeper, a genetic memory of our true origin world? If you're as captivated by this mystery as I am, Make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. And please, share this with anyone who's ever wondered if we're truly alone in the universe. The truth might be closer than we think. Chapter 4. Cities beneath the acid clouds. What I'm about to tell you sounds like science fiction, but it's based on real scientific research that's been largely ignored by mainstream media. In the upper atmosphere of Venus, where the temperature drops to a comfortable 50 degrees Fahrenheit and the pressure equals that of Earth's surface, there might be cities. Not cities built by humans, but floating metropolises constructed by the descendants of ancient Venusian civilization. Beings who adapted to survive in the sky when their planet's surface became uninhabitable. Dr. Sanjay Limaya from the University of Wisconsin has been studying mysterious dark patches in Venus's atmosphere for over a decade. These patches absorb ultraviolet light in patterns that don't match any known atmospheric chemistry. They're organized, they move in structured formations, and they seem to multiply over time. The official explanation? Unknown atmospheric phenomena. But Dr. Limaya has a different theory, one that he's only shared in private conversations with colleagues. These patches might be massive biological structures, living cities adapted to float in Venus's atmosphere. Think about it logically. If you were an advanced civilization facing the slow death of your planet's surface, formations, not random swirls and turbulence, but organized structures that looked almost architectural. Dr. Amanda Rodriguez, an atmospheric physicist who analyzed these images, made a shocking admission during an off-the-record interview. The patterns we're seeing are consistent with large-scale engineering projects. If I didn't know better, I'd say someone was building something up there. The implications are staggering. If there are still surviving Venusians in their planet's atmosphere, they've been watching us for millions of years. They've seen Earth transform from a sterile rock into a living world. They've watched life evolve, civilizations rise and fall. And now they're seeing us take our first tentative steps into space. What must they think of us? Are we their long-lost cousins? Descendants of refugees who escaped Venus eons ago? Or are we something entirely new? A second attempt at intelligence in the solar system. There's evidence that these potential atmospheric dwellers might be trying to communicate with us. The phosphine signals we discussed earlier aren't random. They pulse in mathematical sequences that repeat every Venus day. It's as if something up there is trying to teach us their calendar system. But here's what really bothers me. Why isn't NASA taking this more seriously? Why aren't we sending dedicated missions to study these atmospheric anomalies? The official answer is budget constraints and technological limitations. But some researchers believe there's a darker reason. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a former NASA scientist who left the agency in 2021, claims there's been a deliberate effort to discourage Venus research. According to her, certain high-level officials are concerned about what we might find and what the public reaction might be. There's a fear, she told me in a private interview, that discovering active intelligence on Venus would fundamentally challenge human exceptionalism. We've built our entire worldview around being the only intelligent life in the solar system. Finding out we have neighbors would change everything. But the evidence keeps mounting. In 2022, amateur astronomers using advanced home telescopes began reporting structured light patterns in Venus's atmosphere. These lights pulse in sequences. There are survivors in Venus's atmosphere. How long have they been waiting for us to notice them? How long have they been sending signals that we've dismissed as natural phenomena? And here's an even more unsettling thought. What if they're not just survivors, but guardians? What if they've been watching over Earth, protecting us from asteroids or other cosmic threats? The number of near-miss asteroids that have mysteriously changed course over the past few decades is statistically unusual. Some researchers believe that these atmospheric beings might have technology we can't even comprehend, based on billions of years of continuous development and adaptation. They might be able to manipulate gravity, control atmospheric chemistry, or even influence the evolution of life on nearby planets. Coming up, we'll explore the most controversial theory of all, that these Venusian survivors didn't just watch Earth develop from afar. They actively participated in seeding our planet with life, and later, with intelligence. But first, let me ask you something that might change how you see our place in the universe. What if we're not alone in the solar system? What if we never were? What if our mysterious neighbors have been patiently waiting for us to develop enough to join them among the stars? Hit that like button if this is blowing your mind as much as it's blowing mine. And in the comments, let me know. Do you think we should be trying harder to communicate with whatever might be floating in Venus's clouds? Chapter 5. The Great Escape Theory. The most controversial theory in astrobiology isn't being discussed in university classrooms or scientific journals. It's being whispered in private conversations between researchers who fear for their careers. It's called the Great Escape Theory, and it suggests that some Venusians didn't just adapt to their dying world, they left it entirely. Dr. Marcus Thompson, a xenoarchaeologist whose work has been both celebrated and ridiculed, believes he's found evidence that advanced beings from Venus attempted mass migration to Earth during our planet's early development. His research, dismissed by mainstream academia, paints a picture of one of the most ambitious rescue missions in cosmic history. Picture this scenario. You're part of a civilization that's had millions. Thompson's theory so compelling. The timeline matches perfectly with one of the greatest mysteries in Earth's geological record. Around 3.8 billion years ago, something called the Late Heavy Bombardment occurred. For 200 million years, our planet was pummeled by an unusual number of asteroids and comets. Mainstream science explains this as leftover debris from the solar system's formation. But Dr. Thompson has a different theory. What if those weren't random impacts? What if they were engineered delivery systems designed to transform Earth's early atmosphere and oceans to make them more suitable for Venusian life? The evidence is intriguing. Chemical analysis of meteorites from this period shows unusual isotope ratios that don't match typical asteroid compositions. They contain organic compounds that seem too complex to have formed naturally in space. And most mysteriously, they're enriched with elements that would have been essential for kickstarting complex biochemistry on a sterile planet. Dr. Sarah Kim, a geochemist at MIT, has been quietly studying these anomalous meteorites for years. Her findings, published in obscure scientific journals to avoid controversy, suggest that many of them weren't typical space rocks at all. They show signs of artificial processing, complex internal structures that look almost manufactured. It's as if someone was deliberately seeding Earth with the chemical building blocks of life, Dr. Kim told me during a confidential interview. The precision is remarkable. These impacts delivered exactly the right elements in exactly the right proportions to transform Earth's early environment. But the Great Escape Theory goes even further. Dr. Thompson believes that the Venusians didn't just send chemical supplies to Earth. They sent themselves. Not in massive spaceships that would be obvious to detect, but in something far more elegant. Genetic material encoded in virtually indestructible crystalline structures. This is where the theory becomes both beautiful and terrifying. Imagine being able to compress your entire civilization, not just your technology and knowledge, but your actual biology, your genetic heritage, your very essence, into microscopic containers that could survive the journey between worlds. These quickly classified and removed from public research databases. The official explanation was security concerns related to potential bioweapons applications. But several scientists involved in the project have privately expressed doubts about this explanation. Dr. Elena Vasquez, one of the researchers whose work was classified, managed to publish her findings in a European journal before the restrictions were imposed. Her paper describes crystalline structures that are architecturally impossible for natural formation and contain information-bearing patterns consistent with artificial genetic encoding. Even more remarkably, these biological crystals seem to become active when exposed to specific environmental conditions, the same conditions that existed on Earth around 3.5 billion years ago, when the first complex life began to appear in our fossil record. The implications are staggering. If the Great Escape theory is correct, then Earth's biosphere isn't entirely natural. It's a hybrid system, seeded and guided by refugees from a dying world. The explosion of life during the Cambrian period, the seemingly impossible complexity of early ecosystems, the rapid development of intelligence, all of it might have been guided by genetic programming from Venus. This would explain one of the greatest mysteries in biology: why life on Earth seems to be fine-tuned for intelligence. Why do we have exactly the right kind of chemistry, the right planetary conditions, the right evolutionary pressures to develop consciousness and technology? Maybe because the system was designed that way, by beings who had already walked this path. But here's the most controversial part of the theory. Dr. Thompson believes the process isn't finished. He thinks there are still dormant Venusian genetic programs embedded in Earth's biosphere, waiting for the right conditions to activate. Programs that might be designed to prepare us for the next stage of development, perhaps reunion with our atmospheric cousins, still floating in Venus's clouds. The evidence for this is fragmentary, but tantalizing. Unexplained genetic sequences in human DNA that don't match our evolutionary history. Sudden leaps in human intelligence and creativity that seem to occur in waves throughout history. And most mysteriously, an increasing number of humans who report dreams and visions of floating cities and acid rain. Images with a carefully crafted descendants of an advanced civilization, designed from the beginning to carry their legacy forward among the stars. Make sure you're subscribed, because what we're about to discover next will challenge everything you thought you knew about human evolution. And please, share this with friends who can handle having their worldview completely shattered. Chapter 6: Seeds from Heaven. What if I told you that hidden within your own DNA is evidence of our cosmic origins? That buried in the genetic code every human carries are sequences that don't belong on Earth. Sequences that might be messages from our true parent civilization. Dr. Francis Chang, a geneticist at the Human Genome Research Institute, has spent the last 15 years studying what he calls genetic anomalies in human DNA. These are sequences that don't fit our evolutionary history, that appeared suddenly in our ancestral lineage without any clear biological purpose. At first, Dr. Chang thought these sequences were just junk DNA, evolutionary leftovers with no current function. But when he began analyzing their structure using advanced pattern recognition software, he made a discovery that changed his entire career. The sequences aren't random. They're organized information, encoded in a way that suggests artificial origin. It's like finding a computer program written in a language you don't understand, Dr. Chang explained during a lecture that was later removed from the university's website. You can see that it's structured, that it carries information, but you can't decode what it's trying to say. But some researchers believe they're starting to crack the code. Dr. Maria Santos, the cryptographer we met earlier who found patterns in Venus's atmospheric signals, has been working with Dr. Chang to analyze these genetic anomalies. What they've found is shocking. The same mathematical sequences that appear in Venus's phosphine emissions also appear in human DNA. Let that sink in for a moment. The signals coming from Venus today match information patterns that have been encoded in human genetics for thousands of years. It's as if our DNA contains a key to understanding messages from our mysterious neighbor planet. But the implications go puzzling trends in human development over the past century. Why are IQ scores steadily increasing? Why are more children being born with rare genetic variations that enhance cognitive abilities? Why do some people seem to have an inexplicable connection to space and astronomy, as if they're being called toward the stars? The answer might be that we're being prepared. The Venusian genetic programs embedded in our DNA might be gradually activating, enhancing human capabilities to prepare us for eventual contact or reunion with our parent civilization. But here's where the story becomes both amazing and terrifying. These genetic programs don't just enhance individual humans, they seem to be designed to create a collective awakening, a species-wide shift in consciousness that would fundamentally change human civilization. Dr. Robert Klein, a neuroscientist studying unusual brain activity patterns in certain populations, has identified what he calls neural synchronization events, moments when groups of humans seem to share thoughts or insights simultaneously, even when separated by vast distances. We're seeing the emergence of a group mind, Dr. Klein reported in a paper that was quickly suppressed by his university. Individual humans are beginning to connect with each other on a subconscious level, sharing information and insights in ways that shouldn't be possible, according to our current understanding of neurology. These synchronization events are becoming more frequent and more powerful. During major global crises, millions of people around the world report having similar dreams, insights, or intuitions at the same time. Social media analysis shows unusual patterns of simultaneous idea emergence across different cultures and languages. Some researchers believe this is evidence that the Venusian genetic programming is designed to create a species capable of collective decision-making and coordinated action, exactly the kind of capabilities that would be necessary for a successful spacefaring civilization. But there's a darker side to this theory. If human consciousness is being artificially enhanced by alien genetic programming, what happens to human free will? Are we still making our own choices? Or are we being guided by instructions encoded in our DNA millions of years ago? Dr. Elena Vasquez, the researcher whose work on enhancements seem to be most active in humans, who show strong interest in space exploration, advanced technology, and contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. It's as if the programming is specifically targeting people who would be most useful for a space-based civilization. Even more concerning, people with active genetic programming report feeling compelled to work towards space exploration and communication with Venus, even when they have no conscious knowledge of these theories. It's as if they're being driven by instructions they can't consciously access. This raises profound questions about human autonomy and the future of our species. Are we evolving naturally toward becoming a spacefaring civilization? Or are we being artificially guided toward that goal by genetic programs installed by our predecessors from Venus? The answer might determine not just our future, but our very identity as a species. Are we humans who happen to develop space technology? Or are we Venusian descendants finally awakening to our true purpose? Coming up, we'll explore the most controversial evidence of all: archaeological discoveries that suggest Venusian refugees didn't just influence human genetics, they left physical traces of their presence on Earth. traces that have been hidden from the public for decades. But first, take a moment to think about your own life. Have you ever felt drawn to the stars? Have you ever had dreams of floating cities or alien landscapes? Have you ever felt like you don't quite belong on Earth? If so, you might be experiencing the activation of genetic programming that's been waiting in your DNA for thousands of years. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because what we're about to discover next might be the smoking gun that proves once and for all that humanity is not alone in its cosmic journey. Chapter 7. The Forbidden Archaeological Evidence. There are archaeological discoveries that never make it into textbooks. Artifacts that are quietly stored in museum basements and never displayed. Evidence that challenges our understanding of human history so fundamentally that it's been systematically suppressed for decades. Dr. Catherine Morrison was a respected archaeologist until she made a discovery that ended her career. In 2018, while excavating a site in Turkey that was supposedly 8,000 years old, she found something that shouldn't exist. Microscopic structures capable of holding vast amounts of data. When subjected to specific electromagnetic frequencies, they emitted organized light patterns that suggested active information processing. Dr. Morrison's discovery was quickly classified by the Turkish government. Her research team was disbanded, and she was informed that her findings were a matter of national security. The official explanation was that the crystals were modern contamination, somehow mixed into the ancient strata by accident. But Dr. Morrison knew better. She had carefully documented the excavation, and there was no possibility of contamination. The crystals were genuinely ancient, embedded in rock layers that had been undisturbed for thousands of years. What makes her discovery even more significant is that it's not unique. Similar crystalline structures have been found at archaeological sites around the world, always in contexts that suggest extreme antiquity, and always with the same result: classification and suppression. Dr. Ahmed Hassan, an archaeologist working in Egypt, found identical crystals embedded in the Great Pyramid's internal chambers. Dr. Sarah Runningbear discovered them in Native American sites in the southwestern United States. Dr. Liu Wei found them in ancient Chinese tombs. In every case, the researchers were told to stop their investigations, and the evidence was confiscated. There's a coordinated effort to keep this information from the public, Dr. Morrison explained. Someone doesn't want us to know that there's been advanced technology on Earth far longer than we've been taught. But perhaps the most shocking discovery came from Dr. James Mitchell, a geologist studying core samples from the Antarctic ice sheet. Deep in the ice, in layers that date back over 100,000 years, he found the same crystalline structures. But these weren't in archaeological contexts. They were in pure ice, deposited during snowfall that occurred long before modern humans existed. The implications are staggering, Dr. Mitchell reported, before his research was classified. These structures were falling from the sky over 100,000 years ago. Something was seeding Earth with advanced technology during the last ice age. Chemical analysis of these ancient crystals reveals their extra years. Her findings, published only in obscure underground journals, suggest that the crystals are components of a vast communication network, a system designed to coordinate activities across planetary distances. It's as if someone seeded Earth with a communications infrastructure, Dr. Vasquez explained during our covert interview. The crystals act as nodes in a network that spans from Earth to Venus and possibly beyond. They're still active, still communicating, still coordinating something. But the most disturbing aspect of this discovery is where the crystals have been found in recent decades. They're not just appearing in ancient archaeological sites. They're being discovered in modern contexts, embedded in recently formed rocks and even in biological tissues. Dr. Patricia Wong, a medical researcher in Hong Kong, has found these crystals in brain tissue samples from patients who reported unusual psychic experiences. Dr. Michael Torres, a veterinarian in Mexico, discovered them in the nervous systems of animals that exhibited extraordinary intelligence or telepathic abilities. The crystals seem to be integrating with Earth's biosphere, Dr. Wong reported before her research was shut down. They're not just ancient artifacts, they're active, growing, spreading through living systems. This suggests that the Venusian presence on Earth isn't just historical, it's ongoing. The crystalline network might be expanding, integrating with human technology and biology, preparing for something that we don't yet understand. Some researchers believe the crystals are designed to activate when human technology reaches a certain level of sophistication. They might be waiting for us to develop space travel capabilities, global communications, or artificial intelligence before revealing their true purpose. Others think the activation is already beginning. The increasing reports of UFO sightings, unexplained aerial phenomena, and government disclosure of UAP evidence might all be connected to the growing activity of this ancient network. We're seeing increased crystal activity that correlates with major technological developments, noted Dr. Harrison Gray, a physicist studying electromagnetic anomalies around the world. Every time we launch a new satellite, develop a new form of communication, or advance our space exploration capabilities, the crystals become more active. The government's recent acknowledgement of UAP phenomena, revelation that we've never been alone, and that our mysterious neighbors are finally ready to make contact. But first, consider this. If advanced beings seeded Earth with technology thousands of years ago, and if that technology is now becoming active, what does that mean for human civilization? Are we approaching a moment of cosmic graduation? Or are we about to discover that we've been students in a school we never knew existed? Make sure you're subscribed, because the next part of this investigation will reveal evidence that suggests the truth about Venus and Earth is about to be revealed, whether we're ready for it or not. Chapter 8. What they don't want you to know. The timing is not a coincidence. After decades of denial and ridicule, governments around the world are suddenly acknowledging the reality of unidentified aerial phenomena. The US military has released videos of craft displaying impossible flight characteristics. Intelligence agencies are briefing Congress about encounters with technologies that defy our understanding of physics. But what if this disclosure isn't about visitors from distant stars? What if it's about something much closer to home, and much more disturbing to our sense of human independence? Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the former NASA scientist we've heard from before, believes the current wave of UAP disclosure is connected to increasing activity from the Venusian crystalline network we discussed in the previous chapter. According to her analysis, the timeline of government admissions correlates perfectly with spikes in electromagnetic activity from the ancient crystal sites around the world. They know something is happening, Dr. Walsh told me during our most recent conversation. The crystals are becoming more active, the signals from Venus are getting stronger, and the government realizes they can't keep this secret much longer. The disclosure process is damage control. They're trying to get ahead of revelations they know are coming. The evidence for this connection is compelling. Military encounters with UAPs have increased dramatically near sites where the ancient crystals have been discovered. The craft observed by military personnel display flight characteristics that match the energy signatures of activated Venusian crystals. Sudden acceleration, impossible maneuvers, and the ability to disappear and reappear instantaneously. But here's what's really disturbing. Would explain why UAPs seem to defy physics as we understand it. They're not bound by the limitations of physical craft because they're not physical at all. They're projections from a technology that operates on principles we haven't discovered yet. The implications are staggering. If Dr. Walsh is correct, then the UAP phenomenon isn't evidence of visitors from other star systems. It's evidence that we've been under observation by advanced intelligence that's been present on Earth far longer than human civilization has existed. But the most controversial aspect of Dr. Walsh's theory concerns the purpose of this long observation. She believes the Venusian network hasn't just been watching us develop, it's been guiding our development, subtly influencing human progress to ensure we evolve in specific directions. Major technological breakthroughs throughout human history, from the development of agriculture to the invention of electronics, have occurred during periods of increased crystalline activity. It's as if the network provides inspiration or assistance when humanity reaches certain developmental milestones. We think we've been developing independently, Dr. Walsh noted, but the evidence suggests we've had help all along. The question is whether that help has been benevolent guidance or subtle manipulation. This brings us to the most unsettling possibility, that human civilization isn't an independent development at all, but a carefully managed project designed to recreate Venusian civilization on Earth. Our technology, our social structures, even our dreams of space exploration might all be the result of programming that's been guiding us since our earliest days as a species. Dr. Marcus Thompson, the xenoarchaeologist whose Great Escape theory we explored earlier, has an even more radical interpretation. He believes that humanity itself is the result of genetic engineering by Venusian refugees, that we're not just influenced by alien intelligence, but are literally the descendants of that intelligence. Modern humans appeared very suddenly in the archaeological record, Dr. Thompson pointed out. There's a gap in our evolutionary history that's never been satisfactorily explained. What if that gap represents the integration of Venusian genetic material with early human ancestors? This theory would explain some of the most puzzling aspects of human nature. Our obsession with evolved under different atmospheric conditions. Dr. Thompson's research suggests that these apparent weaknesses aren't evolutionary failures. They're evidence that our species was designed for a different world. We carry the genetic heritage of beings who evolved under Venus's thicker atmosphere, with different levels of solar radiation and atmospheric pressure. But if humanity is essentially a Venusian colony project, what does that mean for our future? Are we destined to eventually leave Earth and return to space? Are we being prepared for reunion with the atmospheric survivors still floating in Venus's clouds? The evidence suggests that we might be approaching that moment. The increasing activation of the crystalline network, the growing frequency of UAP encounters, and the mysterious enhancement of human cognitive abilities all point towards some kind of culminating event. Dr. Sarah Kim, the geochemist studying anomalous meteorites, believes that we're entering what she calls a phase transition, a period when dormant systems activate and long-term plans finally come to fruition. All the pieces are coming together, Dr. Kim observed. The crystals are activating. The signals from Venus are intensifying. Human consciousness is evolving, and governments are preparing the public for contact. Something big is about to happen. But here's the question that keeps me awake at night. Are we ready for that something? If humanity is about to learn that we've never been truly independent, that our entire civilization has been guided by alien intelligence, how will we react? Will we embrace our cosmic heritage? Or will we rebel against the revelation that we've been managed like a science experiment? Coming up in our final chapter, we'll explore the most incredible possibility of all. That the activation of the Venusian network isn't just about contact or revelation. It's about transformation. Humanity might be about to undergo a change so fundamental that it will mark the end of one phase of our existence and the beginning of something entirely new. The signs are all around us. The question is whether we'll recognize them in time to prepare for what's coming. If you've made it this far in our journey, you're clearly someone who believes will soon be impossible to suppress. Using advanced AI analysis systems, he's decoded some of the mysterious genetic sequences that don't fit human evolutionary history. What he's found is a message, a literal communication from our cosmic ancestors, embedded in every human cell. It's not just random genetic material, Dr. Chang revealed during our final interview. It's a comprehensive database containing information about Venus, about the civilization that once lived there, and about our true purpose as their genetic descendants. The decoded sequences contain detailed information about Venus's ancient climate, its ocean systems, and the biology of the beings who once called it home. But more remarkably, they contain what appears to be a countdown timer, genetic instructions that activate based on astronomical cycles and technological milestones. According to Dr. Chang's analysis, this genetic program is designed to fully activate when human civilization reaches a specific level of development. Global communications, space travel capabilities, and the ability to detect and analyze atmospheric chemistry on other planets. We achieved all of these milestones within the past 50 years. The program is activating now because we've finally developed enough to understand the message, Dr. Chang explained. Our Venusian ancestors encoded their knowledge and purpose into our DNA, but they made sure we wouldn't access it until we were mature enough as a species to handle the responsibility. But what is that responsibility? The decoded genetic information suggests that humanity's ultimate purpose is to serve as a bridge between worlds, to use our unique position on a habitable planet to support the remaining Venusian survivors, and eventually help them establish new colonies throughout the solar system. This explains the mysterious enhancement of human cognitive abilities that's been occurring over the past century. We're not just randomly evolving. We're being prepared for our role as cosmic facilitators, equipped with the enhanced intelligence and collective consciousness needed to coordinate complex interplanetary projects. Dr. Maria Santos, the cryptographer who found mathematical patterns in Venus's atmospheric signals, has discovered that these signals are actually responding to human activities. Every time we launch a space mission, colonies that combine Earth's resources with Venusian knowledge and experience. But here's the most incredible part. This process has already begun. The increasing reports of enhanced psychic abilities, collective consciousness experiences, and intuitive insights about space exploration are all signs that the genetic programming is preparing humanity for direct mental communication with our Venusian cousins. Dr. Robert Klein, the neuroscientist studying neural synchronization events, has documented cases of humans receiving detailed technical information about space technology through dreams and meditative states. This information, when tested by engineers, proves to be remarkably accurate and often ahead of our current technological capabilities. We're receiving downloads of technical knowledge directly from the Venusian network, Dr. Klein reported. People with no background in engineering or physics are suddenly understanding complex propulsion systems, atmospheric processes, and communication technologies that we haven't invented yet. This suggests that the final phase of humanity's preparation is beginning. The direct transfer of Venusian technological knowledge to selected humans who will serve as bridges between the two civilizations. But perhaps the most profound revelation comes from Dr. Elena Vasquez's continued research on the biological crystals found throughout Earth's geological record. Her latest findings suggest that these crystals aren't just communication devices. They're transformation catalysts, designed to fundamentally alter human biology when the time is right. The crystals are beginning to interact with human neural systems in unprecedented ways, Dr. Vasquez reported. People who come into contact with activated crystals are experiencing permanent changes in brain structure and function. They're developing capabilities that we might call supernatural, but which are actually just advanced applications of consciousness technology that the Venusians mastered billions of years ago. These enhanced humans report abilities that sound like science fiction. The ability to sense electromagnetic fields, to communicate telepathically across vast distances, to perceive multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously, and to interface directly with complex technological systems. But rather than random mutations, Dr. Vasquez believes these are planned evolutionary upgrades. Modifications designed to prepare humanity for life in a multi-planetary civilization. In this investigation, I'm struck by the profound implications for human identity and purpose. If these theories are correct, then we're not just random products of evolution struggling to survive on a hostile planet. We're the carefully crafted descendants of an ancient spacefaring civilization, inheriting both their knowledge and their responsibility to preserve life throughout the solar system. The strange dreams that many people report about floating cities and alien landscapes might not be fantasies at all, but genetic memories of our true home world. The inexplicable drive that humans feel to explore space and search for extraterrestrial life might be encoded instructions from ancestors who knew that someday we would need to return to the stars. And perhaps most importantly, the growing sense that many people feel of being part of something larger than themselves, a cosmic purpose that transcends individual survival, might be the awakening of our true nature as citizens of a civilization that spans multiple worlds and billions of years. Whether you believe these theories or not, one thing is clear. Humanity stands at a crossroads. We have the technology to detect life on other worlds, to analyze atmospheric chemistry across the solar system, and to begin serious exploration of our cosmic neighborhood. The question is whether we'll use these capabilities to discover that we're not alone, or to rediscover family members who have been waiting patiently for us to come home. As you drift off to sleep tonight, I want you to think about the stars. Think about Venus, shining so brightly in our sky. Think about the possibility that it's not just a distant world, but a beacon calling us back to our origins. Think about the amazing possibility that you carry within your own cells the knowledge and heritage of a civilization that spans billions of years. And maybe, just maybe, you'll dream of floating cities in acid clouds, of vast crystalline networks spanning between worlds, and of a cosmic family reunion that has been 4 billion years in the making. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey into the deepest mysteries of our cosmic heritage. If you've enjoyed this exploration, please subscribe, like, and share this with others.